All right, good evening. I'd like to call the Plainville Planning and Zoning Commission's May 12th, 2026 to order. It is 7:36, it appears to be. First item on the agenda is roll call, and Glenn has an excused absence, and I'm going to butcher your name. Niku?
Yes.
I got it. Would you like to sit for Glenn tonight? So we now have a full quorum. And for public hearings, we have the 3 items relevant to 87 East Street LLC, which we will have the applicant speak first, and then we'll open it up again to the public. Good evening.
Good evening.
You could just hit your mic.
73 East Main Street, again with you. Got some handouts for you. And there should be enough of these here to go all the way around to John. And then I got some for you folks, if you promise to behave. Thank you. Thank you.
So just for the record, it's item PZ03/26, number 12, number 13, and number 14. So we're looking at tonight the special exception, the zoning regulation change, and the zoning map change.
Yeah, I'm not going to really do it, so Tim is going to. For you folks there, the handouts are getting now are going to go up on the TV, on the screen. Okay, set. So I'm going to address a few of the open issues that we had at the last meeting, and then we're going to talk about some alternatives that we looked into for the development of the site. And one of the issues that we had talked about was had to do with traffic, and we got a report from the police chief, and there was a copy that was emailed to me and to Mr. Bossy. And I printed it out. It's on an Excel spreadsheet that I figured would be about 27 feet long if it was printed. So what I did was summarize it. And those are the first 3 pages that you have in the handout I gave you, with the numbers being down in the lower right-hand corner. So the first page is just the cover sheet. The second page shows the incidents of accidents, and this is in the last 3 years. That's what I had asked them for. And then because that spreadsheet is so difficult to read, it came in 3 attachments of 12 pages each. I summarized it, and that's page 3. And on page 3, of the incidents that are there, there's only one, which is the very last one, that occurs on a school day. And it's actually about 25 minutes after school is done. It's also at the time after the crossing guard has left. But if you look at the others, the first 4, there are 4 of them that are all after 6 o'clock in the evening. There's one that's on a Sunday, and there's one on a weekday, but it's in July when school is closed. So the only pertinent one is really the very bottom one there. January 2nd, 25, school was open that day. School gets out again about 2:10. And the traffic guard is there until about 2:25. According to the spreadsheet, none of the accidents involved a school bus, and there was no work zones there at the time. That's the most pertinent information that I pulled out of the report. I don't know if Mr. Bossy has anything further to add. It's an extremely burdensome report to have to read.
Can I ask just one question?
Sure.
So on page 2, if we're looking at the map,
Yep.
all along East Street, there's the 9, the 11, the 6, the 4, the 3, the 2, and the 8. And then there's 2 over at intersection of Spruce and Broad.
Yep. So the best I can determine, out of the 7 that you got, they come out of the intersection at Robert Holcomb Way and at Broad Street and East Street. And that's how I identified them. There's really no other way to identify it.
So the ones that are on the list are the ones clearly only at the intersections versus the ones that are...
As I understand it, it doesn't seem to be all of them, because if you look at the intersection, it adds up to 9, but he only gave us 7.
If I'm reading the map, you know, right, Jennifer, that
Yeah.
is the heat map.
Right.
It shows where the most accidents did happen over the
Right.
3-year period.
Right. And it says there were 35 in
Well,
this
I count
area.
45 on this, if you add them up, believe it or not.
Well, his sheet says 35, but... Right.
Yeah, and most of them are at, Dairy Queen and Nazzo's, but, so there's 20 right there, and then coming down, 10 more makes 30. Then you get down further, you got 43, and then add the 2 over by Spruce Street, you got 45.
Right.
I can't explain how he did it. That's just what he sent.
Right.
All right?
Okay. Thank you.
If you want to see what it looks like, you can pass out the printed version that I gave, but it's
Here's the
not easy to understand.
full document.
It came with the map was one attachment, then there were 3 attachments with it, each that printed out to 12 pages. Okay, page 4, got a letter from Scott Hesketh. You've heard of him in the past. He's a traffic engineer. He's been doing this for about 40 years, and we asked him for a couple different scenarios. And so he's giving you a brief report here comparing the proposed use and what 2 other uses in the GC zone could generate, one being a coffee shop, the second being a bank. And if you look at his 3rd paragraph there, you can see that the not surprisingly in a GC zone, the commercial uses are extremely much more incidents of trips than what the residential use would generate. And that really shouldn't be surprising. All right, I'm going to stop here. I'm going to come back to the pages in the back, and I'd like to introduce a colleague of mine, Tim Fury. He's an attorney from Bristol. He's going to go through the various scenarios of alternatives here. He's got a little bit more experience than I do in some of the new law changes that are in effect and that may be coming in effect that are built into some of the scenarios here. He's also got more recent experience than I do too in an affordable housing development, which is 10-30G of the general statutes. We haven't really had any instance of that in Plainville, because until the last few years, Plainville always was above the 10% limit and had enough affordable units. It's only until, the recent past 2 or 3 years where prices have really accelerated that now we're down around, I think, about 5.5%, is it, for affordability?
It's about half of what it originally was.
Yeah. So, and historically, it was up around 15%. So it just gives you an idea of what's happened more recently. Okay, Tim.
Good evening. Attorney Timothy Fury, 43 Bellevue Avenue, Bristol, Connecticut. I have represented the principals of this LLC, the Naples family, for most of my career, the past 42 years. I have worked on their behalf and many other developers' behalf all over the state of Connecticut. I've not been in Plainville very often, quite frankly, because Bill's here. And when I have something, including this project for Joe, I asked Bill if he would work on it with us, A, because he has the extensive knowledge of your regulations and the pulse of the community and this commission, and B, because he's a much nicer guy than I am. So he works better with the commissions that he knows. So I have worked, I'm on the executive committee for planning and zoning with the Connecticut Bar Association, and I have worked extensively on many of these issues throughout the state. And particularly when we started in to review this site and a few others that Mr. Naples owns within the state, we looked at what are our alternatives. And we've discussed them and we've looked at them specifically with regard to this site to see what were the options we had. One of those was an evaluation under what was then an upcoming statute in the state of Connecticut, Connecticut Public Act 25-1, part of Connecticut General Statutes 8-2, which has got everybody in a tither throughout the state of Connecticut, and actually goes into effect on July 1. And that was the beginning of the state legislature's push to build housing in the state of Connecticut. Aside from the affordability issue, the state has determined that they probably could build 100,000 units, new housing at market rates, and still have a need for people that want to have better housing alternatives in the state of Connecticut. So 25-1 was in part a response to that. It's like a comprehensive statute that builds in everything from making it easier for people to apply for loans, make it more difficult for landlords to evict people, and then they began to adopt some housing initiatives, one of which that requires towns like Plainville and all the towns that don't meet the current requirements for 8-30G to do housing assessments, either working with your regional planning agencies or on your own. Most towns are working with the regional planning agencies because they can utilize the staff, everybody's short-staffed, to develop those housing plans. That's going to take a few years of adoption and evaluation. There's standards in the statute for that, and they do give some incentives to towns that comply sooner than others. But what they did immediately is two things that affect you more significantly in all towns beginning July 1. They adopted what they call the middle transit community housing. And what that tells you is if someone has commercial property, vacant or existing commercial buildings, and they want to either construct new housing or convert commercial buildings to not less than 2 but not greater than 9 units, they can do so. And the second thing that it did is it limited what this commission or any commission can do regarding parking standards. In many instances, they provided you don't need any parking, with some exceptions. And then in any situation, they said you can't require more than 1 parking space for a 1-bedroom or 2 parking spaces for anything greater than 1 bedroom, which this project has always complied with. So in this instance, aside from what you're looking at right now, if they chose to, effective on July 1, this developer, my client, could give you a plan that contains 2 9-unit buildings and adds additional units to the other building, which already has 2 units in it. But we would end up with 27 units rather than 24 units. So you'd have 2 buildings in addition on the existing building and 3 extra units. The other thing, though, that if we went with that route, which would be as of right, we wouldn't need your special exception, we wouldn't need a text amendment. It requires you not to hold a public hearing. It says it's got to be summary site plan review. We could do it, but we couldn't do some of the concessions that Bill's going to talk about that after listening to the neighbors several weeks ago that we've tried to adjust on our site plan to give a better buffer situation and whatever. We would have to build closer to the neighbors than farther away. And I don't know if you have that potential drawing with the 2, there you go. So that's the two buildings, and we haven't engineered this, but based on our evaluation, the two buildings, the rear building has to be much closer to the back property line, and we're adding on to that. And we have similar heights, that doesn't change. But we end up with extra units. In some ways, this may be advantageous for the LLC to pursue. And we knew when we began developing the site plan you're looking at that this was coming, but we chose, after discussing it with Bill, that the amendment to your zoning regulations utilizing that new district that you allow them to create was more compatible with the goals of the community. And after listening to the neighbors a few weeks ago and some of the changes we've been able to make, which Bill will review in a moment, we still think we're able to have a better aspect with the community. The other option we have always had, and we knew, was the 830G choice. And that is bringing in a plan which would include dedicating some units to affordability, technical legal affordability. Some of these units being one bedrooms tend to be more affordable regardless, but we would have to have the designated units. With that, we put your zoning regulations aside. It's whatever we can do within any realm of safety, and you're really restricted from many of the things we've tried to accommodate. Under the current state statute, it's no longer relevant. They've taken out, for either of these alternates I'm giving you, they've taken out of your consideration, how does it comport with the neighborhood? Is the architecture, that's gone. That shouldn't even be part of your discussion now. We're supposed to look at the opportunity to create housing opportunities and go there. Environmental issues would be a concern. The ability to get sewer and water could be a concern. Traffic on a limited basis, but it is zoned this way. And we have the report from Mr. Hethkett that says that the commercial uses for one unit would be 5 to 9 times greater than a residential thing we're proposing. And for a bank type use, it would be 2 to 3 times greater during the peak afternoon hours. So what we're proposing has much less impact on the overall neighborhood to what would otherwise be proposed there. And everything we're doing could be done in a different way as of right. So with the 830G application, although you'd get a few affordable units, we're estimating we could get up to 32 units on the site, because we would still want to make sure it's parked properly to get decent tenants, but 32 units is what we'd have. And the one big difference, which I think is one of the concerns of neighbors, at that point they'd be 4 floors. There wouldn't be 3 floors, but we can fit them. It's not our choice. It's and this was something we looked at early, but Joe thought it was better working with Bill and Charlie from Development Planning Solutions and Mr. Judas to to follow your pathway and your regulation. So we thought that was a better alternative to do. And again, with that building, we're 4 stories and we're still closer to the property line. So what we're proposing with Bill's advice and others' advice is to try to work within your regulations, understanding what our other rights are under the 25-1 and 830G, but to find a balance. And we think what's been proposed to you is a very good balance. And Bill's going to get up in a moment and outline for you some adjustments we potentially made to the plan that we think are even better. But in the end, we think the current plan is fine. If the board likes that better, we'd ask you to approve it. If you like some of the things we've done to change the plan a little bit to accommodate some of the concerns of the neighbors, we're fine with that as well. If you have any questions of me about, Public Act 25-1 or, 830G, I'm happy to answer them. Again, that isn't the desired goal here. We think the plan we have is better for the site, but they're all alternatives we have as of right.
Do any commissioners have any questions at this point for Attorney Fury?
Just one quick one as far as the 830G goes. You mentioned in theory, under that, you could build 4 stories. Does that stay within our GC height requirements, or you are free to blow through that as far as
We're free to
as the rules?
take your
the state
regulations,
laws, and put it all away.
put them in a drawer.
Just want to make sure that that's.
We'd have to
yes.
come in with a plan that basically amends your regulations, and you are prevented under 830G from interfering with that. I'm sorry, Charlie? Charlie Talmadge.
The short answer to your question is yes, your regulations wouldn't apply. The longer answer is it would be that building there. So we would be compliant with your height regulations by going to the 4th floor with a flat roof, but we wouldn't have to.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions at this point? Okay, thank you.
And you guys haven't, but I will tell you, and what you're doing with this amendment to your regulation, it allows the flexibility for someone to come in and adjust and look for alternatives is really a big step forward. I appear in smaller towns, and you're not really a small town, but you're in between, and you're in between a lot of big towns. But what's happening throughout the state is the smaller towns that don't have housing opportunities of any kind, no multiple family housing, 3 and 4 acre lot zoning, and they just don't care, are forcing the legislature to take these more drastic measures that end up on the shoulders of communities like yours that try to find a balance. And I do credit you with what Bill's crafted and you've allowed to be crafted under your regulations for your level of flexibility. So Bill will now outline some of the alternatives we've looked at since your last hearing.
Thank you.
All right. That's the original plan, right? All right. Give us another one. Okay. Pardon?
No,
That's it.
Yeah. So this, we think, is a very good alternative for a couple reasons. Number one is I did go out to Pease Court a couple times and noticed that on the westerly edge of the property, just behind the building there, and you can see it from the road is down below the swimming pool there. There are quite a few mature maple trees. Not really mature, but they're saplings and they're of good height. And in the past couple of weeks, you know, they're in full bloom, and they provide a pretty good barrier, much more than what you would get if you expected to plant something new. So in order to save those or to use that route, if we push the building to the east about 12 feet, we pick up about 12 feet in the back, which allows, a good grove of those trees back there to stay. And it provides a very good height, full buffer, especially, almost 6 months of the year. Certainly during the late spring, summer, and early fall when people are outside. What it does do is it pushes the building over the front building line, right? But page 5 of your handout, all right, we've got a little tool in your regulations that allows you to move the front building line in certain instances. This is very rarely used, but it's been in the regulations a long, long time.
I just might interrupt. So Bill's talking about the saplings and that is a picture of that tree line now, taken from that back street and looking. So that's what, with the addition of the other 12 feet, we will preserve. Okay, so that's a photograph of that.
Okay, so number 2 that I've highlighted there for you allows you essentially to change the front building line, okay? And we can take advantage of that, pushes the building closer, and then that would entitle, we'd have to make a regulation amendment. And if you flip over, page 6 is just the cover sheet for the regulation amendment, but it's on page 7 and it's at the very bottom where I've incorporated what could be a yard requirement to essentially accommodate that. And it would say, again, this is just for your PDD zone that we're talking about here on a corner lot, which we would be. One front yard should be 24 feet, and the other front yard has to be at least 12 feet. Now, the 12 feet is also consistent with what you have in your central commercial zone, which you allow in the CC zone. If you recall, it was probably, there were a few of you on the commission back then. About 15 years ago with Len Tunderman, remember? That was changed from the CC zone to go from 24 feet to 12 feet. So it is a dimension that's certainly recognized. In all honesty, it's probably not the best thing for the marketing because it's going to push the units in the front a little bit closer to the road, but it's an alternative, and we think it's a pretty good one. Certainly, you'd never be able to grow the trees that we can show you if with any type of new development. What else do you have, Steve? Okay, go back.
And that was also, Attorney Galsky, one of the discussions that one of the neighbors had brought up also, that they wanted to make sure they had adequate buffering.
Yeah, well, that's the main thing. I think there's two big issues here. One is traffic, and two is the neighbor, really the one neighbor. I think traffic is almost a foregone conclusion because anything, you're in the GC zone on a state highway. It's a major artery. You're going to have traffic no matter what goes there. You're going to have just different levels of traffic, and we think that obviously from what Mr. Hesketh has given you, you're going to have a lower level of traffic with this. So, I think it comes down to what can we do to make this fit in the neighborhood? And yes, that's it. Some of the trees appear to be on her property, very close to the property line as well, but certainly not the depth of what the border would be.
So just to clarify, so this is like the new proposal to shift the building and to maintain that buffered area there with the existing trees. So if the building were to be in the location of on the original plan submitted, how many of those trees would be going? And then what would be put in their place, if anything?
You want to put this picture back, Steve?
Just for comparison, just so everybody's on the same page.
Virtually all of them would be going, and what would be in their place would be the row of green giant arborvitaes. But with this plan, we maintain the buffer and we still plant the row of green giant arborvitaes, which is they're meant to stay a little smaller and grow about 16 feet. So they're specially designed for these type of situations to fill in properly. So with the alternate plan, you'd have both.
Thank you.
And if I can just ask one thing as far as you talk about 12 feet, just so everybody's clear, you're 12 feet from the state right-of-way, which is 15 feet off the road.
It is
correct?
farther back than it would seem.
Yes, right. So you're roughly speaking, we're talking the building is still 27 feet off the road.
That's correct.
Okay, just so everyone's clear. Yeah.
Yeah, and this plan still has the 6-foot solid fence on it too. Okay, it's on the west side of or the left of the arborvitaes. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna talk about that. All right, what else do you have, Steve? All right, go back. So this is one of the earlier alternatives that if you went to two buildings, and in the GC zone, there's no minimum lot size, there's no minimum frontage. So a subdivision of this parcel is really a layup, okay? Because, either of the two lots there in their configuration don't have to have any amount of frontage. They can share a driveway. That's encouraged in the regulations whenever possible. But again, that's not a favored one here to address the issues that we're facing because it requires that westerly building to be further back, and the height doesn't change. Okay, what else you got, Steve? Another one? Okay, this is, thank you. This is an example of what a bank would be there on the site. It would probably, in this instance, not be combined with the lot above. Probably stand on its own, probably require its own curb cut on the Route 10, as you can see there. Puts the southerly drive right where the crosswalk is for the kids, right? Not a good idea. And that was really the number one issue when this project came, that I said I think you got to do is stay away from that Robert Holcomb Way intersection. Next. It's a convenience store. I'm sorry, drive-through coffee shop, and you got the same situation. Go ahead.
Just to add one note on both of these commercial options.
Could you just state your name and address?
I'm sorry,
for the
Charlie Talmadge, Development Planning Solutions, 225 North Main Street, Bristol, Connecticut, for the record. I won't ask Steve to zoom in on the bottom corner there, but you may be able to make out in your handouts the concepts for the commercial uses. The one for the fast food restaurant was developed in 2023, and the bank concept developed in 2024. We spent the better part of a year trying to attract a commercial tenant to this property, and it didn't happen. We approached at least 3 vendors for fast food and coffee shops, several banks. No one wanted it. So we did take a good look at it for other uses before we landed on a residential use, and then obviously we've gone through several iterations of that design to come up with what we think is the most efficient use of the property.
All right, go ahead again, Steve.
That's the end of this.
What's that?
That's the end of this.
Yeah, okay, all right.
We have the,
So any questions so far? Yeah,
I have one more. I'm sorry. With your proposed shift of the building, how does that affect your infiltration basins? Have you looked at that yet? As far as, because obviously that impacts their sizes. Can you make up for the one on the other side, or?
yes, we adjusted them and tweaked them and moved them. They are kind of outlined on the plan lightly. The one in the front obviously gets smaller. The one in the back goes right up to the edge of the proposed arborvitae plantings.
Okay.
Steve, could you just do your name and address? For the-
I know better. Stephen Judas, 876 South Main Street in Plantsville.
I have a question.
yep,
For the alternate, this is the one that would require the change in the minimum yard requirements. Is that correct?
yes,
Right. And that would require this variance that you put on page 5, right?
yeah, that adopts the,
And the way I read it,
page 5 gives you the ability to do it. And page
Right.
7 is how we would propose to wrap it into the proposed text regulation.
I just want to make sure that we do have the ability to do it. So the way that I read this is that both conditions need to be met in order for us to make this change. Is that correct? So
I think you do.
so the
Have a
first
question about one of them?
Yeah, so the first one, I'll just say for the record, affects better placement of structures, parking, and other site features related to the new development or substantial redevelopment of a parcel. So I think that this works for this one. But then 2, and it advances a public interest in maintaining or improving the relationship between public and private spaces along the street on which the property fronts.
Yeah.
Could you explain that one?
Yeah, so I think what it does is it improves the relationship between this property and the property behind, where we're looking to provide the additional buffer.
Right, but it says here between public and private spaces along the street on which the property fronts.
Well, this is along that street.
It's not along East Street here? Am I?
Oh, I don't think that it means that they have to be side by side. I think that it means that the subject parcel has to have an impact on, something that's there. So I think the intent of it that is there, I mean, you could also go along with just the fact that we're proposing it as part of the PDD in and of itself. And that's why this talks about wrapping it into section 702. And 702 is really your site plan determination. So I'm looking to put it in as part of the text amendment for the PDD rather than having you impose it as a condition on the site plan.
I see.
Does that make sense? Both ways kind of get us to the same place, but I think it's better tying it in with the regulation change that goes along with the text amendment.
Charlie Talmadge, once again, I would just add that you could look at it the other way. This alternative provides us the ability to use the curb cuts as they exist. So going with one of the alternatives and adding curb cuts along East Street would be a negative impact. So going this way, the positive impact is we're not doing those other things.
That's good, Charlie.
Tom, did you have a question?
Sorry, no.
Okay. Do any other commissioners have questions at this time?
Couple more real minor things. We talked about the balconies before, remember? So what we would propose, and you maybe want to jot this down, I didn't make it a regulation change, but because it really affects the building. And on the second and third floors, okay, the westernmost balcony would be screened. And the reason for that is that the balconies that are behind it in line, if they look down, they're all looking into that screening from the other side. Does that make sense? Steve, go up there and point. Show 'em. No, go back to the one you had. So if we screen the westernmost balcony so that they takes away the visibility onto the property to the west, the other ones that are behind it or that are along to the right are, if they look down, they're going to be looking into that screening on the end unit. So there's really not a need to screen them all. You just need to screen the end on the second and third floors. The first floor is going to be, it's going to have the screening from the fence anyway.
And the purpose of that's to give a little bit of privacy?
That came up last time. That was something that the neighbor talked about, so we took it into consideration. Want to talk about windows?
Did already.
What's that?
Did already. Immature again.
Yeah. We did talk about windows last time a little bit. And on the west elevation is to not have the windows on the second and third floors. First floor should be okay again because you're at street level, you got the fence. Okay? A little bit about the parking just in general. What we're proposing here too is 1.5 spaces, right? For the one-bedroom units. And we did talk about last time that, we don't think that the state regulation of allowing one parking space per unit is good at all. Because certainly you would expect that you may have, even with one bedroom unit, you may have two drivers, living in that unit. And it doesn't allow you any space at all for visitor parking. And we can't expect to park on a state highway here either. So, it's an accommodation that's really a practical thing and how people are going to live out there. And unfortunately, you don't get that with the state statutes that are coming down. If not, we'll let you open it up.
Two emails to read into the record.
Just one question. So on the It doesn't have a page number on it, but in the new packet that you gave us, the alternate, where it says proposed building closer to front yard setback, front yard 14.8 feet, rear yard 22 feet, and then it'd be 24 feet on one street and 12 feet on the other.
Right. So you'd have your 24 feet on Broad Street,
Yep.
12 feet on East Street. That's how we would answer the proposed regulation, obviously.
So would you include, I can't see on this, it's so tiny. Would you include in the regulation the front yard and rear yard, or just leave it as is in terms of the verbiage?
I don't think we have to change the rear yard.
For this grader.
Oh, for the screening? Well, the screening we're showing as part of the site plan, so
'Cause
I don't know that has to be in the regulation per se.
is it front yard setback is 24 feet normally,
Right.
and you're gonna go 14.8, so shouldn't that be in the regulation?
We're asking for 12 just for a little leeway.
No, that's on the side.
No, that's the front yard.
Oh.
It's on page 7 of my handout.
I know I'm on page 7, but I'm confused because you have 24 feet and 12 feet under item number 6, but on this printout, you have 14.8 feet and 22.
Yeah, so the regulation just gives us a little bit more room to place, for example. I'll let Charlie answer that.
The 14.8 and the 22 are the actual dimensions. What Attorney Galsky is referring to is the regulation allows us a little leeway in the field in case something moves an inch or two one way or the other.
I'm still not understanding, I'm sorry.
In a perfect world, you know, when you ask them to build the building and they're 14, what is it, 14.8 or whatever it is, say 14 feet, they would hit 14.8, but they don't always. And the last thing you want to do is have the building get in and the foundation poured, and then they come back and they have to go to ZBA for a variance because they're over by 6 inches. So that's all that it's doing, is giving a little bit of flexibility. The 12 feet also ties in with the 12 feet that you've adopted in the GC zone. CC zone, central commercial.
Madam Chair, if I could try to
Please shed some light on this.
try to
because I'm still not getting it.
I'm going to dumb it down a little bit. So when we were, the thought was that we would change the regulation to 12 feet. But when we started moving the plan, you know, we just shifted the building so it was 22 feet off the back line. What was left was 14.8. So our site plan calls out 14.8 while the regulation is saying 12. We could move the building a few more feet closer per the regulation. If you were to adopt this change, then the building could be 12 feet off the property line. Would never propose it exactly at 12. We would go 12 and a half or 13 because, like Bill was saying, we always leave a little bit of play, because during construction things don't always get constructed. So we have a little buffer here from what the regulation is proposing, but we could move that building another foot or two forward if you were to agree to amend the regulation.
And then so I get that. So you're going to be, if you hit the 14.8, you're actually giving us more.
I'm giving you more in the front yard, yes. I'm giving you more in the front yard.
The rear yard, this is so tiny.
Is that 22 is what
Is
I'm
at
planning.
22, but the regulation allows 10?
Right.
So it doesn't, you wrote it on there, but you really don't have to write it on there because it complies.
Right.
My confusion is you're writing things that comply, and I don't need things that comply, I need things that are.
We're sometimes creatures of habit, and the idea was we're trying to identify for the commission how far we move the building from where it was originally, and those are our setbacks now compared to what it was previously. Does that make any sense? I think it was just a disconnect. Engineering-wise, we were like, okay, we can move it 22 feet off the back, and we have 14.8 in the front. But regulation-wise, we were trying to hold the original rear yard setback and then modify the front yard to match the central business zone of 12 feet.
So they're not going to have this written in here in red on this
No.
alternate. That's just
No.
for point of discussion tonight to explain the scenario, and then
Yes.
this would be fine in the.
And
I just wanted to make sure we were going to match.
yes, and what would happen is on this plan, it would call out the new regulation of a 10-foot. In the chart, it would say required 10 feet, proposed 14 feet. That's generally what would
perfect.
happen. Yeah.
That's just what I'm clarifying. And then I had one more point of clarification. So because this text amendment is specifically for PDD number 3, these regulations only for the 24 foot and the 12 feet only applies to this PDD.
I'm going to let the attorney answer that one.
But I'm just saying for the public that may not understand that may be thinking that the next PDD that comes in here looks at the regulation and applies this to the next PDD, which this is plan specific.
And it also requires the incident that you have to have a corner lot.
Correct.
Can I ask one thing as far as looking at the and the zoning information chart that's on this alternate and then also on the original plan that we have? I don't think it's correct, a lot of it, so I would double check your numbers. GC right now, this says maximum building height 30 feet. As far as I know, in GC right now, it's 45.
It is 45.
I bring that up in part so that the public understands that if you were to build just a straight up GC building right now, you could build it 45 feet high under the regulation, under the zoning. So there's just double check some of those numbers as you go through, because there's some, I think there's a few instances of incorrect values.
Any other questions from commissioners at this point? Okay.
I think most of you sat on the 3 Square application back a couple of years ago down at the north end of Farmington Avenue, just north of the Rebel Dog. And a very similar type of development situation. The main thing that was different there is that the residential zone was right up against the GC zone. Not necessarily the case here. Down there, you had a building that was going long way, essentially parallel with the length of the lot, with several units with windows looking out the back. So I think you've got a substantially superior design with this than what you had before, for what it's worth.
Okay. Thank you. Let's open up the public hearing. Kurt, we have 2 pieces of correspondence from the public. Would you be okay reading those into the record? You don't have to read that link again. Yeah, this whole stuff here is just.
From contact form at Town of Plainville, Connecticut, CMS mailer at civicplus.com, sent Tuesday, April 28, 2026, 3:52 p.m. to John R. Bossy, subject, Town of Plainville, Connecticut, concern for zoning proposal on East Street, sent by Courtney Petrowski. Hello, Jay Bossy. If you don't want to receive, message. Dear members of the zoning committee, hello, my name is Courtney Petrowski, and I live at 14 Peace Court. As a longtime resident of Peace Court, I am writing to express my opposition to the proposed apartment building development on the vacant lots at 87 East Street and 17A East Street. My primary concern is the significant impact this development would have on traffic flow and public safety in an area that is already heavily congested, particularly during school arrival and dismissal times. Adding a large residential complex to this location would inevitably increase the volume of vehicles entering and exiting the area each day, creating additional delays, backups, and unsafe driving conditions. Additionally, I am deeply concerned about the safety of our high school students. Many students either walk or drive to school, and increased traffic in this area would place them at greater risk. Congested intersections, additional turning vehicles, and heavier pedestrian traffic could create dangerous situations for young drivers and students crossing nearby roads. This area already struggles with traffic management during peak hours, and introducing a high-density apartment complex would only worsen these existing issues. I respectfully urge the committee to carefully consider the long-term impact this project could have on student safety, traffic congestion, and the overall quality of life for residents in the surrounding neighborhood. Thank you for your time and consideration of these concerns. Sincerely, Courtney Podowski. From contact form at Town of Plainville, Connecticut, CMS mailer at civicplus.com, sent Friday, May 1st, 2026, 12:29 a.m. to John R. Bossy, subject Town of Plainville, Connecticut, Plan Development 87 East Street, sent by Edwin Scott Natupski. Hello, Jay Bossy. Message. To whom it may concern, I am sending this email in opposition to the planned development at 87 East Street. This is already a high-traffic area. Also, there are already too many renters in the town of Plainville. I strongly oppose this development.
Thank you. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak? Come on up. Yeah. You could just state your name and address for the record, and there's a paper there for your name and address, please.
Matthew Weimer, 16 Peace Court. Still in opposition as I was last time I was here. Just an observation on this traffic. I wish we had some more context, because according to this, there's 30 accidents at the end of Elbow Lane, which is a dead end. There's either a really bad driver that lives there, or like there's just not any context to the traffic study. I know that commercial would generate a lot more traffic, but the fact that they were thinking about a restaurant and a bank before they came up with this idea tells me it's not in the best interest of the community, it's in the best interest of the developer, because if they were able to come through with those, it wouldn't matter how many curb cuts. They'd come through with any traffic study they could show you to say that that was the best use of the land. I like the buffer with the trees that are there. As somebody that had a lot of maple trees on my property at the end of that street when I moved in, I had a deck built, and there was some trucks that were driving through my yard. They disturbed the root system of the maple trees, and I ended up having to take them down. So I wonder just how long those maple trees will be healthy next to a construction site with heavy equipment, disturbed root systems. And probably the thing I most agreed with was that Attorney Galsky is a much nicer guy than this guy. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. Would anyone else like to speak?
Donlin Tenney, 17 Hillscrest Road. Is there a pen here? There's no pen. Did you take the pen? We keep tossing around this word affordable, so now we're hearing that affordable is back in the discussion. How many units are going to be affordable? And I left here last time, and I thought, wow, there must be some big legislation coming down July 1st. That's all I heard about. You guys are going to have less autonomy. You're going to have, we might as well just not have a planning and zoning commission. And then I'm looking at this legislation, and I'm seeing 8002 was effective 1/1/26. 830G was effective 1989. I didn't see that it's been amended. 25-1 was effective 1/1/26. So I'm curious as to what big is coming down the pike for 7-1. And isn't the new parking legislation for 16 units or less? That's the way I read it. And I'd like to know what statute takes away the ability for the towns to look at architectural considerations. That's it.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak?
Hi, I'm Mark Mazzalupo, 32 Peace Court. I have a lot of questions, really, and first I want to thank you for continuing this from last time. You had asked some questions following the public comments, and things were answered, but I feel there was a focus that was a little bit different than really the messaging that at least myself wanted to get across. So my first question is, what is a PDD?
You want me to answer that?
Why don't you ask the questions, and then I'll have Attorney Galsky give his rebuttal to answer your questions.
Okay. Well, so the way I understand it, it's a planned development district that allows you to create, basically a developer can create their own set of rules for this district. And it has criteria it has to meet. But what it does is it throws out the existing zoning regulations. So, and again, forgive me because I've got questions that I don't seem to be seeing answers or hearing answers for. Could the site be developed without the PDD? Could you put residential housing apartments on the PDD, on the half-acre lot? Well, I'm going to help you out too, because part of what I understand the PDD, a requirement is that any proposed PDD needs a zoning bulk table that includes maximum density of residential units and minimum open space and usable recreation area. Now, there was a density comparison that was provided last time, and Attorney Galsky, I appreciate he actually emailed us that following the meeting. However, it looked like this was less dense than most of the other comparables he used. However, he used an acreage of 1.51, which the actual combined acreage is 1.151. So I'm going to just hand this out for you guys. So that corrects his figures. I don't do this for a living, so forgive me if it's not in the same site, but if you look at the back page, that's what I was provided. And if you look at the front page, I recreated that table. The next step down recreates the table with the exact acreage of 1.151. Now again, in that instance, you're assuming that this PDD has gone forward and this is what we can create, is this monstrosity. What we're really talking about, and if you look at the site plan, I'm just going to point out, this is the current dividing line between the two properties, so about 1.5 acres, I'm sorry, 0.5 acres and 0.6 acres for the combined 1.1. So just keep this in mind, because this is really what we're looking at. And compare it to how it looks there. It's really kind of absurd that this is being considered. We're creating a structure here, or proposing a structure that is almost 6 times the size of this structure on the similar size lot. Now, to put that in perspective, where this developer's offices are located on Whiting Street, that building is 25% smaller than what this building they're proposing is. I think what we're missing here is one of the other requirements in this PDD. They have to demonstrate positive economic and social impacts. They have to illustrate complementary physical characteristics with adjacent properties. That does nothing of the sort. You take the properties across the street and they're two-family homes or single-family homes. This monstrosity is bigger than Nazo's. I know this hasn't been approved, and I know this is under consideration, but truly consider like what is being proposed here. We've owned the property behind it for over 50 years. We always knew something would be developed, but we knew and we trusted that the zoning commission would allow development within the guidelines that were set forth. These PDDs are setting a precedent for spot zoning where folks can come in, like this developer, and create their own personal development districts that will maximize the return on their investment, but throws out all of the current zoning regulations. Sure, it complies with the environmental regulations, but only because they're borrowing from the lot next to it. Look at that requirement of usable recreational area. I don't see it out on the corner of Broad and East Street. I just don't see it. So going back to that density comparison, you'll notice that in the original presentation, it was ranked as one of the lowest, least dense areas. But in actuality, you've got the second highest density per acreage in here compared to their comparables. Another thing that's been brought up a number of times in the more recent presentation today is this central commercial district. Now, my understanding of that central commercial district is the downtown section, Whiting Street, where that, again, 55, I believe, 55 Whiting Street, where their office is. That's a different set of regulations than the general commercial zoning. So take that into account too. But again, I keep going back to, in my mind, how are they demonstrating a positive impact for the community with this? I'm not disagreeing that housing is needed, and I'm all for the development of that plot of land, but do it within the current zoning that's permitted. This developer knew when he bought that land what was allowed. He took a gamble, and now he's taking a gamble. There's no way he invests tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars in attorneys, consultants, and the like if he doesn't think he's going to make a killing on a property that is more than 3 times what's currently allowed on that space. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak? If not, Attorney Golsky or Attorney Fury, would you like to respond to the questions from the public, please?
So first of all, in terms of the traffic, I was told that the big concern was about the safety of the children, and you do have appropriate crossing guards and measures that are taken. None of the accident data is showing that is where the danger lies. There are accidents. It's a state highway. It's one of your busiest roads, probably the most busy road in your community. But what we're seeing is not the reality that this type of project would create an ongoing danger. And certainly the use that is proposed is probably the least impactful of other uses that could be proposed. In terms of Mr. Scott's letter comment, there's too many renters in town. Well, it's just inappropriate. I mean, You need people that own homes, you need people that rent homes, and part of the problem within the state is there isn't enough appropriate housing for people to live in an appropriate manner. In terms of Mr. Weimer's, and excuse me if I get your name wrong, I was just trying to phonetically spell them as we were going. Yeah, they did in part look for potential commercial tenants. They didn't market it very hard because Joe was looking at the overall site, but he's allowed the reasonable uses of his property. Anybody is. The last guy to the dance doesn't get to not dance. And one of the reasonable permitted uses of this property is for residential. And it's going to be developed as residential. The question is, what is the most appropriate method in which to do that? In terms of affordability, Donna, and I didn't get your last name, this is not being proposed as an 830G project. This is a market rate project, but by its nature, because some of the units are smaller, they tend to be more affordable. There are members of your community that we're not building 3-bedroom units with large families. So this does provide some level of affordability. In terms of the parking legislation, it's actually a little different than you thought. You were right about the less than 17, but the way the statute's written, which is difficult, is if you have less than 16 units or less, unless you're in a problem area, you don't have to propose any parking for your site. So if you've ever gone down to Mystic, if someone wants to put an apartment building in Mystic, they would, for less than 16 units, they might have a problem because Mystic doesn't have anywhere to park today, and you would have to justify why you were going with the 0 parking. But it's 0 up to 16. It's after 16 that you're the 1 and the 2, and we're not proposing 0. We're proposing greater than the state statute requires, just from a operational point of view. Working with Charlie and Joe, and we've had actual traffic evaluations done by Mr. Hesketh on other sites, and he's kind of given us the balancing number, what you need to have a little extra parking for your folks. The key to this is, as with all the state of Connecticut, is it is better for your community because it's bringing modern housing to your community. The old triplexes, duplexes, most of them were built in the early part of the century. Most of them are impacted with difficulties of design and stairs and lead paint and things that just aren't as desirable. People aren't acclimating there. They are not creating the vibrancy in a community that we once had in parts of. I had someone call me today from the town of Plymouth, Connecticut, that has a 4-family house, and they have a challenge because one of the children in his unit just being tested for lead-related issues. So people are looking for the more modern housing design, safety, more better architecture, etc. So it does bring something. And the other reality is, we in 6 weeks can build these alternatives, end up in the exact same place. We don't think they're better plans. We think they are more impactful to the neighbors. It doesn't give us the flexibility to move away to preserve the buffers, which we desire to do. So the reality is, people, resist having the things go up, and you had the empty field next to your house for many years. I get it has some impact, but it's the question of, given what the statutory rights are for this owner of this property, given working within your regulation, not working against your regulations, within your regulation, this is a solid plan. It is engineered appropriately, water, sewer, appropriate drainage, appropriate traffic circulation, appropriately located with appropriate buffers to the neighbors. We think you should approve it. I don't know if you have any other questions. I think I addressed at least our perspective and what the neighbors have asked.
Do any commissioners have any questions? Thank you. Would anyone else from the public like to speak? Does anyone see a reason to keep the public hearing open?
Just one, the question about the PDD. Nobody answered his question.
Oh, can someone answer the question about what is the PDD?
Well, the PDD stands for Plan Development District, and it essentially gives the commission gives an applicant, with the consent of the commission, consent to, yes, create your own regulations. And I think it's a very good tool. I've said that several times, because as the town builds out, it gives you the opportunity to make changes that are for the benefit of everybody. And that's part of what, we're asking for, and what the regulation change was here tonight. It's also better than having an applicant go to ZBA and somehow get a variance and then come to you, and then you have no decision-making over it at all. So I think that's a huge advantage that the PDD has. There are certainly parameters to the PDD. I think we meet it here. The other thing that I would add is that, I think if, you guys can correct me, come July, if this were to be a traditional building with commercial on the first floor and residential on the 2 floors above, which would be an allowed use, wouldn't need the PDD, come July 1st, the first floor could be amended to provide for residential with, essentially with the summary review by the commission.
How many units would that then give you? If you were to propose commercial on the first floor and residential on the second and third floor with the footprint the way that it is right now, how many units would that give you on the second and the third floor?
16. And then after July 1, we could convert the first floor and be right back where we are.
And the building could be back against the, back against the 10 feet from the rear, what is the rear yard, 10 feet, 12 feet?
Could you clarify, there's been some discussion about the actual acreage.
I could be wrong on that. And I haven't had a chance to look at it, but if what he says is true, then I'd stand corrected. I understand that it's 1.15 acres, and I haven't looked at my chart, but it's possible. I know that there were numbers that we were using earlier on that was 1.5 acres. So that could be subject to check. But the bottom line is, whatever the density is, it fits.
So on the application, it's 0.55 and 0.60.
Yeah, I think what Mr. Judas has for the size is correct. 1.15?
Versus the density comparison that shows it at 1.51.
Yeah, so I don't know without looking further whether that's just a typo there and the rest of it's correct, or it could, the whole line could be wrong. I'll acknowledge that. Does anybody have a calculator to change it? Check it. You got one? What's it come out to?
It does appear his numbers are correct. Mr. Judas?
Yeah. No, that's me.
Sorry.
So if this is 1 point, 1.15, and you got 26. What is it?
.04.
That's not right. Well, you gotta do it 26 divided by 1.15.
22.6.
So it looks like it's 22.
This is just for comparison.
Yeah. So it would be 22, assuming that that's 1.15.
So if you look on page 1, 2, 3 of the land use application, that's incorrect. It says 1.51, so that's gonna your application is not accurate. So it's gonna be throughout, I think, where it's kind of. Yep. But then if you look on page where the text amendment is, with the combined site, it says 1.15 or 50,120 square feet, so that's accurate.
There's no question it's 1.15, right?
So it appears the number was transposed on the application, but the plans submitted all had the correct values. And the densities is a conversation. It doesn't change what we're looking to have approved, your ability to approve it. And it also doesn't change what can be done in the alternatives. Those densities all remain the same.
So I guess my question is gonna be, because I'm the one the marshal shows up at my house with paperwork if something is approved and something is contested. In a court of law, because the application has 2 different numbers on it, where am I gonna stand? 'Cause I don't want the marshal at my house.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously a typographical error, and I think that the picture is what it is. And everything should flow from the picture, so I think it's nothing more than a typographical error. I can submit you a corrected version that says 1.15. And as long as you acknowledge and you know that, and that's what you act on, you know what you're acting on.
That is the purpose of the public hearing process, and certainly I assume, as with most commissions, you make your approval contingent on remaining staff comments, and that is when Mr. Bossy reviews the final chart and the final comparison of what is the required rear yard to the proposed rear yard, the required front yard to the proposed front yard. All those details have to be worked out to the staff's satisfaction to make sure they comply with what was presented. And we can also.
John, do you have a copy of the call to the public hearing? The notice?
You understand that,
Okay, it
First
doesn't
two-
have to be great.
first two, the adoption of the, PDD and adoption, the language, the text language and the map revision are independent of the site plan. I mean, you can actually approve the first two
Correct.
and find something wrong with the site plan that doesn't comply with the rules that they want to set up. I mean, if you just review the rules that are in the document. I mean, the revision to the zoning map, we know that that's the boundaries of this particular property. So that's pretty straightforward. The rules for this PDD is the page, the proposed text amendment. If you look at the proposed text amendment, you see no indication on that proposed text amendment regarding density. So when you go back through and you review the site plan as a separate, I mean, you could actually tonight, you could consider approving the zone change, the map change and the text amendments and continue the site plan.
But
Because in reality, if you accept their modified proposal, I haven't had a chance to review their modified proposal. I mean, there's drainage calculations that may be the same, but may not be the same. There are some other things that may need to be reviewed.
We also need to make sure the table is accurate.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying that what we reviewed was what was submitted, not
Correct.
what they're proposing. So, I mean, from my perspective, if you were inclined to act tonight and you were inclined to approve the PDD and the map change along with it, I would suggest that you continue or table the site plan until they submit a revised site plan for our review.
can I ask on that topic, this land use application is not just for the site plan though, so the fact that it is incorrect, shouldn't it be corrected before we act on any part of it?
Well, I mean, as I explained, the map changed. I mean, we all agree that it's only the parcels that are involved.
Yes.
Okay, so that, there's no question on that. Now, if you read the text amendment,
Yep.
is there anything contrary to what's there that you believe is inaccurate?
Well, it's not. It's the land use application part 2 has the wrong acreage on it. That's the part that is signed by Brian Panico and dated. Is that not?
So is that on the site plan or is
That's the
It's on the
land. It's on
application.
the actual land use app. Part 2
There's
has
multiple
has
pages that have the wrong
1.51.
acreage.
That's kind of a legal question.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm not feeling comfortable with.
Okay. I mean, you can table all 3 items and you closed the public hearing, I believe. I think you did. So, I mean, the public hearing is closed. Now you enter your next phase, which is the approval process. You have 65 days on the special exception and the map change. You have less than that on the site plan because that didn't require a public hearing.
Double check everything.
Just for clarity, you haven't voted to close the public hearing, and if you wish to continue it, I don't know that you need a consent to us, but we give it to your next meeting. And I would suggest you keep it open, and we'll provide amended document that's all consistent, fix the chart. The only thing I would look for from the commission before you take action to continue it is if the commission, and you don't have to vote, but if we're going to re-engineer or double check the engineering to satisfy moving the building forward to provide the greater buffer, be nice to have some input from the commissioners that you think that's a good idea. Because otherwise we stay with the plan that we have and the engineering's all been done and is satisfactory. We think it was a good alternative trying to accommodate some of the concerns of the neighbors, but we do need some input from the commission. But other than that, we would consent to a continuation of the matter to provide the clarifications.
What do the commissioners think?
I just had one question. If the PDD doesn't go through, what would be your proposed option based on the next month's?
Well, I mean, essentially, wait till July 1st and come back with the same darn thing. And it might be that the building's back, you know, because you can arguably you could say that, well, the people living on the first floor are closer to the road now, and they're going to get a little bit more road noise. But I mean, substantially, it would be substantially the same picture as what you've got there.
So I guess thinking about the time factor of coming back before us, if you have to, the cost factor, if you had to re-engineer to the new proposed plan that gives the better buffer to the neighbor versus waiting to July 1st.
No, we're happy to finalize the engineering on the alternate that we've proposed. We think it's a better plan, but the commission may not. So, and you're not voting, if you're continuing, you're not voting, but I just, it's not fair to the applicant to go through the work. And if the commission already knows it likes the original plan, better.
I mean, I guess it's hard for us to know based on the fact that there hasn't been a review from the town engineer of the proposed plan that the drainage calculation would even work. Am I correct?
I can say this, that they should be able to create some kind of system that would accommodate the drainage. It might not be as economical as the original one, but they should be able to develop something in some fashion or another. I mean, most challenges, engineering challenges, can be accomplished. It's just a matter of how much money it costs. I mean, they're not, the lot doesn't get smaller. They're not adding, I don't think they're adding any more or substantially any more impervious surface. So it's just a matter of moving it around and relocating the structures or whatever means that they're doing to accomplish their drainage objectives. But it does mean that, something gets moved from, say, over in the right corner of the property to maybe closer to the center, or maybe something else. And all that just needs to be checked.
I think it really comes down to a verification method for site plan purposes, which we will be able to engineer, but it's fair to the commission and to Mr. Bossi that you have an opportunity to verify it.
And I think it makes sense to keep everything open. We can fix the application. I'll acknowledge right now it's a typographical error, and I think you recognize that. There's another change on the chart that needs to be looked at. And if Mr. Bossi has some recommendations, we'd like to be able to react to them. And if you close the public hearing, we can't react to his comments. So, we're trying to do the best thing we can here. With a plan that everybody recognizes and is not something that is shoved down your throat.
Well, and I guess I recognize that you're trying to work with the commission and with the public, and that come July 1st, there's going to be a lot of working with one another that's going to go away because of this, what is coming down the pike from the state level. I get that.
So we'd like to stand behind this, something that you've seen, something that looks good, and something that won't get worse or won't get diminished.
If I could say, obviously the details will ultimately matter. It is certainly appealing to me that you looked at, the alternative of moving the building and keeping those trees in place is certainly something I see as, it may not give, it may not solve all the issues that residents on Peace Court have, but it is certainly an appealing adjustment to try to get to your question of, is it worth, spending the time and effort on? In my opinion, it is.
I feel like there's been a lot of accommodations, the screening, windows not being on certain sides. The trees are important. But there was a concern raised about destruction to the root system, and I'm not sure where those root systems go, and construction can affect root systems. So then you're going to have these large trees that are beautiful as the way they are right now, but then if that root system's disturbed, they're going to all have to come down, and we're starting from shorter trees. My only concern. Anyone else? So would the consensus be to continue the public hearing and leave the 3 special exception zoning regulation change and zoning map change for items 1, 2, and 3 open to the next meeting, so that the correction to the application can be made for the acreage, for the table can be looked at, and any other plans be adjusted so that there's ample time for town engineering to take a look, and then we will have a plan in front of us that actually has what we would be looking to approve or deny.
Makes sense.
Okay. So a consensus would be to continue. John, what's the date on that?
It would be continued, your next
26th.
meeting, 26th. And I would believe that we probably would need an extension from the applicant, because that should, I think we will exceed 35 days at the 26th.
We'll get you one.
Okay.
How many days do we need? Do you want a 45-day extension?
Well, I'd like the whole 35, extra 35 days. I'm hoping that you'd probably close the public hearing at the next meeting, I would hope. I would hope between the applicants.
When's the end? Do you know what the end date is? That's what I guess what I'm asking, because I don't
You
want.
open the public hearing on the 28th. So that's 2 days in, I guess you can keep it open, because the 28th was your last meeting. And so that's 2 days in April, and then it would be 26 days in May, so you're at 28 days.
So we're okay, but then if it goes beyond that, then we have to
Yeah.
request an extension. That's what I was looking at. Okay.
Does that give you enough time to go through the changes? Or?
Well, I mean, depends, I mean, it's all on them. The sooner they get the information, the sooner I can take it's an opportunity to review it. 2 weeks, we got a holiday in between, so, there's less days. I don't know how much more engineering needs to be done to present.
I'm confident we can get the revisions back to John in a timely fashion, so he'll have time to look at it before the next meeting.
He has time to study?
Yes, yep.
Thanks, Steve.
Them? Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So someone want to make a motion to continue the items 1, 2, and 3 under public hearings to our May 26th meeting.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. So for the public, for point of clarification, we're going to continue these items at the May 26th meeting, and there will be a place for you to speak at the public hearing. We kept the public hearing open, so you'll have access to that revised plan and any other revisions. So you'll be able to come up and speak again. Okay?
Thank you.
Are those revisions and things, will they be available electronically, or do we have to?
They're not usually up online, are they, John?
No, they're not usually online.
You'd have to go to the planning
I don't know
office.
when they'll be available. I don't know when I'll receive them, but you can keep contacting my office in regards to that. I mean, I'm guessing probably first part of next week, I'm hoping.
Thank you.
I can forward you electronic copies as well, John.
Okay, if you can get me electronic copies, then you need to send me an email and I will forward it on to you.
Thank you.
Is that helpful?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to, we have unfinished business. So item number, hang on. No, we left it open. No, because I talked about doing it, but then there was another question that was never answered about the PDD. So let me just let everybody go out and then we'll finish, so it's not picking up everything on the tape. All right, so item 3 is unfinished business. Item 1 is PZ 0326, number 12, special exception for 87 East Street. That's going to stay where it is on the agenda, as is number 2, PZ 03/26, number 13, zoning regulation change text amendment, as is number 3, for the map change of PZ 03/26, number 14. And item number 4, PZ 03/26, number 12A, for the site plan for 87 East Street, as they coincide with the 3 items for the public hearing that are continued to May 26th of 2026. Okay, moving on to item number 5, PZ 04/26, number 15. We have a special exception for deposition of earth material for the Gardens LLC, map 10, Block E, Lot 02 at 0 Unionville Avenue. Deposition of material, Section 4.06. We have a public hearing that's set for May 26th of 2026. We have item number 4, new business, no items. And then we have under bills and communications. John, do you have any updates? We've got zoning violation for 100 Norton Park Road.
They're supposed to be applying to ZBA, and they've posted signs and prevented people from actually using the area that they cleared and processed. There is no violation as long as no cars are actually parked in that area. We don't have any restrictions in regards to tree removal or minor grading. So assuming that no one parks there, which they took means to try to prevent it. That doesn't mean that people won't try to park there, but as far as I've heard, I haven't received any comments from the property owner that was interested in that issue.
Okay.
In regards to 68 Pershing, we sent a notice out earlier in April. We've been periodically checking. As far as I know, that there's no, it's discontinued. That basically they were parking on the grass. It's discontinued.
Okay.
And in regards to 76 through 88 Washington Street, I met with the property owners. We're reviewing addressing some of the issues that were outstanding. The main one being the fence that was damaged over time. They're looking into seeing how they can correct it.
What about the green fence and the trees that were cut?
Well, the trees that they cut,
Because they were in the limits of the clearing.
yeah, well,
And there's also a path that's cut right through those trees to the neighbor.
all right, well, I'll revisit that with the property owner.
Could you also,
The fence is there. I can tell you why the things are done. The fence is there because there's poison ivy. The person's trying to prevent the balls and the toys from going into the poison ivy patch. So they use the fence as a restraint from that. They cut a path in because I guess there's a relationship between the children that live at the house in that condominium project and the children that live in the neighbors. I don't know whether those are legitimate cares or reasons to act, but I will investigate that with the condo association.
I guess from my perspective, is when we normally have limits of a clearing on a site plan, that's not what they're developing in, that's not what they're clearing, because that's part of the vegetated buffer to separate from abutters. And so when trees are on a plan and all of a sudden trees are cut from a plan that were listed on the plan, it would appear to me that there's no longer a compliance with what was approved. Just like if there's plantings and the species of plantings aren't the same as what's on the plan, and there's other things growing where those species should be that aren't valid species, it should be what's adhering to on the plan or replaced.
I agree with you in principle with that. But you have to acknowledge that you have site plans that are 30 years old. I'm sure that they're all out of compliance too.
But I guess then why are we setting limits of clearing, vegetated buffers, picking species? I can't have the response for all of us to be sitting up here that there's just a million things in town that aren't enforced. So then otherwise, why do we have regulations and why are we up here as commissioners? Because we spend a lot of time, we dedicate a lot of time up here for there not to be some sense of compliance.
I know that I've seen on recent site plans, you've put a condition in there that says landscaping if something dies or gets damaged, needs to be removed and replaced. I've seen that note now being added, which helps me from an enforcement standpoint, because it's clearly on the site plan. And understand that limits of clearing from a construction standpoint, they are related to construction, not necessarily the end result. So you need to be careful in making sure that the note on the plan is specific, that it limits of clearing or refer to both construction and after construction. And I think we spoke about that months back in
Right.
regards to being more careful when we put those types of things in there.
Right, or
we
it
can-
needs to
and
say
we-
vegetated buffer not to, to
Yes.
be maintained.
Yes.
Versus the limit of the, I mean, it is the limit of the clearing if it's the original trees that are on the parcel before construction begins, but at the same time, that then becomes the vegetated buffer.
Yeah, and so, I mean, going forward, we'll have more teeth in the site plan. We will work on that particular one, to try to, come up with a solution.
And then also we had on the prior one,
We have
56
Canal Street, it's not.
Is that still going?
It's not, what they're doing is more of a matter that the police need to address, parking on the street. Now, if the reason why they're parking on the street is because they're not providing enough parking on their property, well, then that becomes a zoning issue. So the police need to enforce no parking on the street before or the person that's offending, the police thing have to tell us that we're parking here because we don't have any parking to put there, because they're going to ticket the individual person that's understand they're not going to ticket the owner of the property. They're going to put tickets on the car that's actually violating whatever parking
Doing the
requirements.
violation, okay.
Or they're going to, I guess the first thing they're probably going to do is the police department and through the traffic authority is going to end up putting no parking signs or in some fashion or another. And then if they violate that, then they'll get ticketed. And then from that, then it'll be that they can't provide parking on the site, and that would be a zoning violation.
So that one
Basically-
then is turning over to be a police issue, not a zoning issue.
Right now it's referred to the police.
Okay.
Basically, they've outgrown their facilities on South Washington Street in that industrial park. They have more employees, or they're using whatever for so that they're forced to park outside. It's been an ongoing problem for many years. Previously, they parked on the grass, and then we cited them for parking on the grass. And then, as a solution to their problem, they start parking on the road, and they have parked on the road for many years.
Does anybody else have anything for John under bills and communication? Okay, we have the minutes from the April 14th, 2026 meeting.
There was Myra, did you correct them? And
I did correct,
So-
but I do have to go to the YouTube video because I can't hear who made motions and who seconded the motions. So I will have those two by the end of the week. For you guys.
Tom had
Because
made
we
some-
had
Tom had made some.
because we have the 14th
Right,
in
Tom
here.
had- Those had a few errors that Tom had noted on there, so I went back and fixed the errors, but I just have a few that I need to go to YouTube to verify.
All right, so then we're not approving what's in the packet tonight? Okay, and then we don't have the ones from the 28th?
No.
Okay. Planners report?
I don't have anything really to talk about. There's no new applications. It's been pretty quiet, knock on wood. Hope it stays that way. But the 26th will be a pretty active meeting. You'll have two public hearings. I don't know whether there'll be any public outcry for the Unionville Avenue project. But, I mean, you still need to reconsider this PDD, and you'll have to consider whatever Mr. Sinise is proposing. He's basically bringing material that he's excavating on New Britain Avenue, and he's bringing it to Unionville Avenue. He's got a previous plan that required some filling, and that's what he's planning on, utilizing the fill material from one to the other. So we'll see how that sits with.
He knows that he's not going to be able to crush it.
No, he's actually got his portable crusher right now, currently on New Britain Avenue. And it would be to his advantage to crush it on New Britain Avenue, only because he can haul it a lot easier crushed than he can haul it in large chunks.
Okay.
There's
Yes.
a big pile already crushed.
Is there? Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, that's fine.
Ready to move it.
Yeah.
Just because we had that in a residential area once, and they were hauling stuff, and then we're going to crush it on, and that was just a bad scene.
That doesn't fit your criteria anyway, so your regulation crushing on that. You got specific criteria for crushing.
Correct. That's why I'm asking the question.
No, the equipment is all there. And
Yeah. Okay. Anyone else for anything for John? And then workshop session, you disseminated all of our information from the POCD
Yep,
revisions.
everything that's required was referred to the proper authorities. I don't know if I included a flow chart. I received a flow chart from, I must not have then. Well, anyways, I'll get you the flow chart. It tells you, we've gotten through step 1. We're currently in step 2, and
Yeah.
it'll come back to you for step 3. The question about step 3 is, you need to put some thought into it. About July 10th or so is 65 days from the referral. The question remains is whether or not you want to have a public hearing in the summertime, or whether you want to delay the public hearing until in September. I mean, there's drawbacks and positives for each one. Obviously, some people want this thing to move forward as quickly as possible. And then the downside of moving it in July is that people are on vacation, summertime people relax. We've had issues in the past where you, maybe not your commission as a whole, but the town in general have been criticized for trying to sneak it in. And so, I mean, that's something that you can decide. The actual language that's changed isn't substantial. So I don't know whether it makes any difference whether it happens in July or whether it happens in September. But that's something as a group here you need to confer amongst yourselves to figure out what you think is the right move to make.
And I'd like to move it because it's been hanging over our heads for a long time, and I'd like to do the right thing and get it in the POCD so that everyone feels comfortable with what's in the POCD at this point before we go to do a whole new 10-year plan. And I think, Tom, you want it in there too. I think that's
Yes.
the feedback we're getting from the public is we don't want to wait on this anymore. They're frustrated that it's not already done.
So I think your schedule is one meeting in July and one meeting in August. That's
Correct.
what I was told. So, I mean, you can decide whether you want to have it in July. I mean, I'm fairly certain that the second Tuesday is after the 10th, because I believe the 4th is on a Saturday. And so
Yeah.
that makes,
Yeah, I mean, I would say, if we can do it in July and be a one and done and get it done, I don't see how it would need to potentially be continued unless there's 5 million revisions to it, but I don't know that I see 5 million revisions coming down the pike. I am not here in the August meeting, I can tell you that ahead of time.
And unfortunately, I am not here in the July meeting, but I don't need to necessarily be here
Yeah,
for
you were
it.
here
for the discussions of what we were doing.
so you're talking, your first meeting in July would be 14th, so
And the 65 days is July 10th.
around July 10th. I think we counted it out as July 10th.
All right. Okay.
All right, so I think that ends that particular issue. We'll put that in a hold until you get a referral from either one. Maybe you'll luck out and maybe both will have a referral before 65 days and you can hold it in your second meeting in June. But, we'll see how things shake out.
Sounds good.
It's more so, I think, is how long it takes the region to develop comments. I'm fairly certain the council will take up whatever soon.
CROG does it fairly
Yeah.
quickly.
Yeah, so I mean, maybe they'll have it ready for you.
And maybe we can do it in June, which would be better for all of us.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, well, and then we go to the zoning text revisions. We have a draft that was developed by our consultant. And we have some commentary on the first page. I think the things that you need to remember is that anything that allows mixed use has to, basically, this particular new statute applies to. So, that encompasses all the zones, well, basically the zones, the general commercial, central commercial, and I think it's TP. That's the first major change. The second one is that a summary review. Now, they're going to define what summary review is, but basically what it is like a site plan, but they squeeze you a little bit tighter, so you have less flexibility. I'm guessing that the intent is to flood the market with new housing units. And it's got a twofold goal. There's a I guess a need for housing, and they also believe, I think, that by flooding the market, they might be able to have some affordability factors in it. If you have more units offered, somebody can't keep raising the price up to whatever levels that people are willing to pay. So that's, and then, I mean, we've all talked about the parking requirements. That applies to anything 16 or less. I think in Plainville, it's probably not as likely to have buildings that are developed with no parking. I think they'll have some parking, but maybe not as much as you'd like to have. I guess it's, if you understood what the makeup and the power struggle in Hartford is, you have the 13 or 15 major urban centers. They control the number, they have the most votes, so they control kind of the agenda. If you lived in an urban center, street parking is a common occurrence. So they just think that street parking is, should be everywhere or can be everywhere. So what you need to really consider, and what we'll talk about in more depth, I think, at our next meeting on the 26th. That's the other thing too. The 26th, bring your sleeping bags, because it's going to be a long meeting. Because our consultant's going to be here to answer questions. And I'll ask this question: are people available to show up earlier so that we can have the consultant? No, I guess that question is answered then.
Some of us work.
I was only suggesting that because otherwise 10 o'clock will probably be an early night that
And some
night.
of us work at 7 a.m. tomorrow. Mm-hmm.
But it's going to be a long meeting.
Yeah.
I don't know how much you've taken a look at it, huh?
Yeah,
Want
right.
dinner?
We don't even get water.
I can ask. I can ask for refreshments.
We're lucky if we get a bathroom break.
So we hit about 5 hours.
I think the important part of the text amendment is not the first page, not the first 2 pages. It's the third page where it begins. It starts to talk about the what you actually have jurisdiction over. You can control. So you have some design. You can create some design parameters. You have some choices on roof materials and siding materials, so you can have some flexibility on how it's going to look from the street. And it all depends on how stringent you want to be, and how liberal you want to be in regards to what materials you allow. You have some landscaping, some flexibility in landscaping. You got to keep in mind that, generally speaking, these particular developments are going to have probably neighbors that are conflicting uses. If somebody were to exercise their right to put residential in a commercial zone, chances are along that street, at least you're going to have conflicting uses. So at some point, the people that are living in this proposed development will probably be griping about the neighbor, either for noise, smells, and these are things that really you don't have any control over. You don't have any control over, the noise and smells that come from, say, a restaurant or a parking area or whatever. But you know what? People choose to want to live in a commercial zone, I guess they're going to have to compromise a little bit and be able to be tolerant of those types of things. I mean, traffic is going to be an issue that's going to come up from people that are in opposition to these, but they're not going to have you talk about people not having a say. They have zero say in this. Basically, you're going to sit up here and somebody's going to present a plan and you're going to go through the few parameters that you have control of, and you're just going to put checkbox next to the ones that they meet, and then you're going to stamp it approved, and you know what? Somebody's got the right to do that. So I'd suggest that you begin your real concentration beginning on, I think it's page 5, and work your way to the end. That's what you have control of. Everything else is out of your hands. I don't know how much time you spent on it, but I mean, we were running a little late tonight, but our consultant will be here. They'll be virtual. You can ask whatever questions. It's hopeful that you could set a public hearing for the first meeting in June so that you can have the regulations effective for July 1st. If you're not effective July 1st or it's a little bit later than that, you only run the risk that somebody's going to pop something in and you won't have control over the things you do have control of.
I feel that this is going to be hard for the public to understand based on interactions that occurred tonight and subsequent questions that were asked tonight, where I don't feel like the understanding of the layers of within government and our purview and what things come from state statutes that are from above us to CROG, to our POCD, to our basic regulations, et cetera, et cetera. I don't feel like the public has a grasp on all of those components and how they interact, let alone how the statutes supersede our ability to make decisions. And I feel like this is going to be the beginning of people being very unhappy in town. And that concern, that energy is going to be directed towards us as commissioners. Unfortunately, yes, it's our unpaid volunteer time up here, but I don't know how to make it any more digestible. We're having a hard enough time digesting it, and we understand it. And so I don't know how to better help the public to digest it and to understand it without being very frustrated and very angry.
Well, I mean, it would be nice if somebody that represents Plainville from Hartford was put on the spot for, signing off on this type of a law. I mean, I don't know the way they voted. But I know that if you were representing a larger community, an urban community, this isn't anything that would be affected them. They're already living this. I mean, if you lived in Hartford,
right,
you're already living this. So I mean, it seems logical that everybody else should live it.
So would it be helpful in this process? And I'm just throwing this out there because I don't think we've ever done this, but I like living outside the box sometimes if it means that we're going to help people adjust to this. And maybe us not taking the beating, so to speak. Is there a representative at the state level that would be appropriate to come when we're reviewing this to also participate in those discussions? Because they need to hear what the public is, how the public is going to respond to this, even though we don't have any control over it. But then maybe they could take that back to the state level going forward. I don't know if that's even appropriate.
We could invite the individuals that represent Plainville, Representative Martinez. I think it's Senator Martin has some.
That's correct.
We can invite them, if they were wise, they would avoid this, but we could invite them.
But we're wise, I think, to invite them because they're the ones making the decisions and they're the ones interacting at the state level. And this is the ramification of how they're voting.
Yeah.
And so now we're going to be in a position where our hands are tied and the public's not happy with what's going to go in next to them. And we can't do anything about that.
Yeah. The thing is though, there's no guarantee that when you have your public hearing, that anybody's going to show up, because the reality of it is they're only going to show up when that first person comes in and has a proposal there, and then they're going to sit there and their jaw's going to hit the floor when they stand up and say, we want to say something, and you're gaveling them down saying, you know what, you can't say anything.
Right. And then I get beat up here again over and over and over because I'm asking people to be quiet in the public because there's not a place for them to speak. And that's not my choice that I'm not letting them speak. There's just not a space based on how the meeting is run and what is before us.
No.
I mean, the law
we're bound by statute.
The law specifically states that there are no public. I mean, it's right in the law. No public hearings. You don't even have the option on a site plan. You have an option. What's discussed in the public hearing you might not have any ability to enact it, but in this particular case, they just told you, you know what, you're not hearing any comments.
Right.
We don't have no say, period.
Right, but then that's going to be hard to hear from the public's standpoint because there's been so much concern raised about a couple of different projects. And out of the kindness of our heart, we've opened up a space for the public to speak. Granted, it was a very lengthy process, very cumbersome for us and for staff, but the public still had a place to speak. And it's going to be very difficult for them not to have a place to speak. It's going to be difficult for us not to hear what they have to say, but it's out of our hands.
Yeah.
I think their idea is a great idea, but I agree with Mr. Bossy reaching out to them. If Mr. Martin didn't vote in that direction, what purpose is it of him to come here and listen to something that didn't vote for in the first place?
Well, but at least it shows us caring. Or does it not?
I think it says something if they show up. I think it says something if they don't show up. Yeah. At least it takes the eyes off us.
Again, I'm not advocating that we should reach out. But I agree with Mr. Bossy that more than
Right.
likely
They're not
politically
gonna-
he wouldn't show up.
Yep.
Right.
And if Mr. Martin did not vote for these things,
It's not going to change
what
anything.
is it going to change?
Right.
Again, I'm not saying not to reach out.
But they at least would see firsthand, if they did come, the problems that some of these decisions are creating. Because they're up at the state level and they make these decisions in these rooms and they're not hearing firsthand what that's impacting.
Madam Chair, I mean, none of those I disagree with, but if we go back to this, you mostly get beat up because you're the one having to describe to the group that they can't speak or they have to
Right.
wait their turn. But unfortunately, you've put it out there, the rules of order, how
Right.
the meeting is to be conducted. You have to become educated. To me, it comes down to the point, you're complaining about something, but then you don't go and vote. I don't like this person won that election. Did you vote? No. What are we talking about here? And if we have an open hearing, public hearing for changing or developing the new PDD and nobody shows up, but then a bunch of people show up because somebody's coming in to take advantage of those things that changed, and that's when you want to complain, well, now it's too late. And is it our job to educate them? Again, we're volunteers.
Right. And
I think that the thing that we originally talked about, what was it, 2 years ago? The spiel that you would have to read off every meeting.
Yep.
In the very beginning. This is how the meeting goes, so that you're already kicking the rules out to them from the very beginning before there's even a chance to start. And I feel bad for you on occasion when, I have to sit up here and watch these people's faces. The faces that they make or the shaking
Right.
or the mumbling they make. But I mean, at the end of the day, we're given our rules, we're doing it. I live in this town. I don't want to see it. We all live in this town. I don't think any of us want to see it go to whatever.
Right.
we're doing the best that we can with the information that we have, with the advice that we're given, the lawyers. I mean,
Right.
become educated. How long did it take to get alternates? I've been here, I think now for 3 years, and this is the first year that there's actually backup alternates.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Well, we need more.
Yeah, but maybe they need to get incensed. Maybe they need to
Turn
be
on your
told,
mic.
sorry, be quiet.
Kurt, put on your mic.
Sorry. I think my voice is loud, but I don't know.
No, it's not.
No?
No.
It's quiet?
Well,
There's no way it's
what I
quiet.
ask you to do between now and the next meeting is to read over the document, write down whatever notes you want to put on it, and be prepared to, ask whatever questions you can to the consultant. The consultant is very knowledgeable of this particular subject, and I mean, they represent 39 towns as a group. So they're pretty knowledgeable in regards to every town is struggling with this. Well, let me put it this way. Most towns are struggling, but I don't think every town is struggling with it.
Right.
It's going to change. The slippery slope that they presented is they if they get this through, what other things will they take away from local communities because somebody doesn't like what the majority of cities are. I mean, you heard Attorney Fury say that it was that part of this stems from the fact that you had some exclusive towns that have created zoning laws that make it nearly impossible for the average person, even the average person, to move into those communities. So you've got, less exclusive towns trying to even the table a little bit, I guess. And they started with housing. Does it mean that, next time they're going to require you to do this or that? Does that change what authority you have?
It's hard because it's a one size fits none. And we have things that are coming down the pike that no longer allow for the unique features in each town. It's a carte blanche. You get to do it this way, no matter where it is. And so there's no autonomy of one town and its unique features from the next. And that's sad. But I don't know who's going to fight that. What army?
It's a difficult challenge for the smaller communities, because what works in a bigger community doesn't always work in a smaller community.
Right.
I have a question, not in terms of a solution, of course, but I know that it would benefit all of us to have the public be educated, but I think there's also a cost for information. That might be time, might be availability, for example. Is it possible for us to maybe put out like a PZC like public statement on the website that kind of explains what we're not allowed to do or what has changed in regarding 25-1?
I mean, it's possible that we can put something on the website. I mean, the website's got a banner that goes on the main page. So when you log on to our main page, it's like the first thing you see or some of the first things you see. We could put an explanation there. I don't know how many of the people that are not involved actually look at the website. I mean, I live in another city, and the only time I look at the website is I got a specific question that I need to find the answer to. It's not about what's actually going on. It's specific to what I need to do. So, I mean, I don't know, how many people actually do that. I don't know how effective it is.
Sure.
Manager minute. I know he does that every.
You could do a manager minute. I could suggest to him to do a manager minute on that.
Yeah, so it's just as much.
It might take longer than a minute.
I think if there are things on the agenda that come under summary review, I think maybe we should like make it clear ahead of time, or make it clear at that before we get into that agenda item that, hey, this is summary review. There's not going to be a public hearing about this. So
I
that,
mean, usually on the agenda, it says whether there's a public hearing or not, though.
Those are available on the website.
And they have access to
I mean,
the agenda ahead of time.
Based on my knowledge of what's gone on in the past, you've been pretty consistent. There's very few public hearings on site plans. You've decided that past history is that subjects get introduced that you don't have any control of, and that are relatively valid, but you don't have any control, that you don't want necessarily to influence your decision, because if you use that as a denial, then the court quickly overrules that. You didn't have jurisdiction to make that judgment. It's straightforward. I guess it's difficult with today's society to reach all the people that you need to reach. People are only interested when it affects them directly. And, you could sit here with this new regulation, it could be in your regulations for years, and say one, maybe two people initiate using it, and then all of a sudden somebody initiates it and it hits a nerve, and all of a sudden you got the whole town screaming at you.
Right.
So, I think people generally just need to be aware that, government does things that sometimes has inadvertent problems and challenges. I'm sure that when they voted on this law in Hartford, I'm sure the people that voted on it, they thought that this wasn't going to be a problem. And maybe it won't ever be a problem. I mean, Plainville, the commercial areas are fairly well developed. There's not a lot of room to put new buildings for sure. It's the issues of converting old buildings into new uses that might be more problematic.
The reuse. And the fact that we have a lot of vacant commercial spaces that we can't fill. And so those are buildings that are sitting there. So people are paying taxes, they're having to maintain, et cetera, things are going to get dilapidated. So at some point, somebody's going to come in and say, hey, I'm tired of this sitting here. I'm going to flip it. And they, as a landowner, they're going to have the right to do it. And times are changing. I mean, look at how many businesses have gone online. Look at during, COVID, how many people were no longer going to the office. So the times have changed. More people are working from home or in unique situations where there's shared offices. So a lot of the spaces and how we used them before have evolved. And so we have to evolve with that. We don't have a choice. We can't fight that. We've got to keep moving forward.
No, the state and the legislations they've passed has forced that hand.
Correct.
But I'm sorry to go back. I think it's a good idea to put it whatever we can on the website, but it's still left up to the Society of Plainville to
interpret it.
Go and read
it. And to interpret it properly.
The Tilcon issue. You needed that Tilcon issue to get people. You came around the Tilcon issue. You came around the Tilcon issue. I wonder how you feel on that issue, because I feel like maybe what was going on and what you liked or didn't like put you into the position to actually try to get on the commission or to be an alternate. And in my mind, that's the whole aspect of the discord of people coming. Hey, you don't want to pay attention. Hey, you don't read the saver. Hey, you're not on Facebook Market or whatever, Facebook Plainville, whatever the heck it's called, Plainville Talks. To me, it's just a constant situation where, I bought a house that's over on the ridgeline. Okay, were you an educated buyer? Did you know what the property behind that ridgeline was intended to be used for, was allowed to be used for? And now, 20 years later, when they actually finally are going to go and develop it because they have the right to, now you want to complain?
But it's going to be the same thing for every single parcel here.
Oh, absolutely.
Potentially commercial or other, that's something is going to go somewhere because that land, whatever it's zoned or whatever it ends up being more appropriately zoned, is going to have something potentially built on it.
No, exactly. But I mean, the junior high school. The Manafort group came over here and, hey, we want to do this. And there was a massive amount of pushback during the public hearing of, we want to, it's a historic building. Where is there another building? I'm sorry, but where is there another building in Plainville that's historic, that has some
significant
Greco, Romanesque architecture in the front? It's the only building. And the amount of money it would cost to even make it possible inside is not worth anybody's time. And if I wasn't mistaken, somebody new is potentially
Looking at that.
looking at buying it, and they want to tear the whole thing down in a fresh,
I
brand new
think they
building.
were retaining the facade.
No,
Yeah.
they were maintaining the front facade.
When Manafort did, but Manafort's put the property up for sale.
Right.
The property has been sold.
Manafort came before us, and they wanted to do
There was a gentleman that came before us from New York.
Just
since
recently,
then.
yeah.
But he wants to maintain the facade.
The facade, yeah, that's what I thought.
whole
I didn't get the gist of that when he presented.
significance to get extra money back.
Yeah. But those are the things that, we're going to encounter. Some of this isn't going to be easy.
I understand, but I don't know.
But we also, aren't going to live in the times of everything was farmed and we're divided by our neighbor by a rock wall.
I absolutely agree. I live in this town, and sorry, I didn't mean to. I live in this town, and my kids have grown up and gone to the school systems here, and I pay taxes and so on and so forth. And I wanted to take a part in the government, and I looked and searched on the website, and I put my name out there, and I'm here. I attempt to do as much as I can around my regular life and work to learn as much as I can to help make the best decisions for the town of Plainville. But again,
It's not going to be enough for everybody.
it's not.
It's never.
And I admit, you're the one.
I get beat up here.
You are getting
And
beat up,
outside
and you
of
get the
here.
dirty looks, and you get the whatever, and the comments that are made. Oh, I got you. Okay, this 1.15 to 1.5. Okay, it's a gotcha, but I don't think anybody did it maliciously. It's one time in a 20-page document where it's flipped.
Right.
No, the problem is we're applying logic to what we're doing, but the public reacts emotionally.
Yes, but they react emotionally because they didn't
because they don't want to take the time to do the research, because they don't want to have to worry about it because it's happening in their backyard. That makes them react emotionally, where we're thinking it logically, going, okay, this does this, so therefore this will happen and this will happen.
But I'll go backward even further. We are the return person at Kohl's, in the back of Kohl's, that takes all the returns. Kohl's tells me the box is ripped open, I cannot refund their money. But the person comes up and they want to scream and they want to yell and they want to call you names. No, I want to return it. I want my money back. It doesn't fit. It doesn't work. I'm sorry, ma'am. This is all I can do. And in my opinion, all we have, it's customer service for the town. I'm sorry you feel that way. They say something nasty. They want to give a dirty look. They want to do whatever. We still have to sit up here and more or less be stoic and go, I'm sorry you feel that way. I'm here. You have the same ability to be here as I did. You have the same ability to go on the website or to come up and, the gentleman, I don't want to mispronounce his name. I don't think his name was Judas. That was really bad.
He corrected it.
No, I know, but you called him Judas.
I did because somebody else did.
I know, but I'm sitting here thinking like.
He corrected it. Judas.
I know, but at least as far as the group, I almost lost it when you called him Judas.
Yeah.
Judas who betrayed Jesus, and you're like, Judas. But I thought it was funny.
Yeah. No, you're fine.
No,
I'm just
you're
ready.
The
to
architect is Steve Judas.
You're absolutely correct. We do have to deal with the backlash.
No, because I keep.
But it's the problem. We have to deal with the backlash because we're bound by something by statute, and if we don't follow state statute, we're just opening ourselves up for an ass beat.
No.
And that's what they don't understand.
I know they don't understand it, and every time we're in these meetings where there is the, come on, I don't know why I'm
Public hearing?
Yes, the public hearing. I have to keep reminding myself. I have to be impartial. They gave a dirty look. I can't react to it. I can't let their reaction affect my reaction, because there were a couple times that I was like. And I was like, no, you can't do
Or
that.
somebody says something that's not accurate and you want to correct them, but there's places where it's not our place to correct them and the applicant has to address it.
That's the one thing on a public hearing that you can keep in mind. It's not up to you to answer questions.
Correct.
I mean, I don't know if any of you have ever gone to a state public hearing. They get a hearing officer, and the hearing officer comes. He says this public hearing. He reads the hearing notice, and he sits there and he doesn't say anything. You get up to the thing. You can say whatever you'd like. He just sits there, and I don't know what he's doing. Maybe he's playing with his phone. I don't know. Maybe he's taking notes. I don't know. But they say nothing. There's no feedback. You say your piece, sit down. Next person gets up, says his piece, sits down. And the back end, somebody must read all the transcript and say, okay, well, this one wasn't valid, this isn't valid, but it's not the same person that's in the room. It's difficult. I'll admit it's difficult to sit there and have somebody get up there and say a bunch of stuff, and wait a second here, this isn't quite right. You know what? I need to comment, but you don't have to.
Well, and that's why I don't know if everyone's noticed. I'm referring it back to the applicant because it's their job to answer the questions, not my job. It's not always John's job to answer the questions. It's the applicant's.
No, I think this evening's, and you referring it back to the lawyer, was excellent.
Yeah, I think that.
And I don't have any reason to butter you up, but I think that how you do handle it is screw it. I keep trying to relegate not swearing, but I think you do a good job.
Thank you.
I understand it's frustrating, and the only thing that I would say to your statement that I felt like was more to Mr. Bossy but also to us, is that you have to go back to the aspect of reading out that preamble before we have the public hearings. This is how it is. If you wish to say, hey, I'm sorry, but this is how it is, and this is how it has to go.
Oh, I would gladly go back to it. Do you have a copy of that, John?
I'll have to dig it up. I don't. That was something that Mark developed.
It was something I think the gentleman at the ZBA,
and
would
Mark
read out every.
Pulled it from what the ZBA chair was reading.
Peter Tuno does a good job in regards to outlining the rules.
Right.
I don't know if there's a script. Mark
did it.
Mark
it's not a
paraphrased
document.
the script.
And I think Evan had it too.
Okay, well, I'll look for that.
Because that does help streamline.
But
and also making the comment also about, the public comments, it's not like at the town council meeting where they can talk about whatever. It's relevant to the application that's before us. It can't deviate from that. And then you have to kind of
It can't, but I mean, I haven't seen her in a while, so I hope she's all right. But the lady that lives in the one-bedroom apartment with the
Gail.
the cats, she would come up.
And sometimes we have to corral her back to.
She was talking about stuff that
points
wasn't
on-
even relevant to whatever it was.
Right. And we have to try to assist. So.
I think we've beaten this to death. I mean, so.
Your legs are gonna hurt you standing up back there. All right. Does anybody else have anything? Otherwise, would someone like?
Sorry, just one more thing. If we could unofficially, over the next 2 weeks until like the next meeting, if we could just think of ways to disseminate information to the public, I'd like to be able to, whenever these people come up and say, hey, oh, well, we don't get a chance to say whatever we want, we can say, hey, we have this information posted on the website, we have it, this and that and the third, and say, this stuff is readily available, we tried our best to inform you, still not going to happen.
Well, I mean, I don't know how much more than the regulations and reading the regulations and understanding how they're applied. I mean, I think that's the gray area.
That's the brainstorming for the next 2 weeks, if we could unofficially.
I just don't know that there's. We can't interpret them for them. Do you know what I'm saying? So we're not going to be able to explain. Here's the POCD. This applies to this, and this versus this is the subdivision regulations, and these components of the subdivision regulations. They're not relevant to this other application, and I think that's the misunderstanding is how the documents work based on what's before us, and that there are some pieces of some documents, like a traffic impact study, is not required for everything.
Right.
And so you have to read what the regulations say and actually read the regulations and know what you're looking at to determine what is relevant to ask for. And that's the hard part is people
thinking that POCD is, you follow the POCD. No, POCD is.
It's a guide. I mean, and so those little things, I don't know how best to articulate that to people.
I think that we should put whatever we can, but I also think that we don't have a planner.
Right.
Because I don't think we have the money to offer them one. I don't know what it costs to have somebody add stuff to the website. I'm all for it. And if I knew how to do it But I do believe there was a gentleman that showed up to the meeting that was like, hey, I do all this kind of stuff and I would do it for free if you give me the permission or allow me to do it. And it was like, no, we just can't let someone from the general public go and do it. It's the town stuff. And then when the lawyers come into play, and then I'm not against it at all. You go, anything that we could put out there that is being transparent, I think is awesome. But we're a commission. We're not the town council. And then the other aspect is people are going to come and I don't like the color of your shoes. How do I explain the rules in relation to the color of my shoes have no merit on what we're doing right here? And I don't think it's our job. Do you know?
I mean, I don't think other commissions.
Nico, do you know the rules in relation to the subdivision or any of this stuff? So you're on this commission and you're advocating that we train them, but you don't know and I don't know everything because I've only been here in 3 years.
Been here 20 years and you still don't know everything.
So I would feel remiss to train or to even speak to people about something that I couldn't even claim to be an expert. I think those gentlemen that showed up that were the lawyers or, you know, the other guy that did whatever kind of planning for the town of or not town of Bristol,
The lawyer
but
from Bristol?
there was one that specialized in like town planning.
Yeah.
Not the lawyer, but the guy with the short hair that seemed more mean than the other. Not Galsky, not even the lawyer from Bristol, but the other guy.
Gentleman.
Charlie Palmer.
Yeah. All right. Does anybody have anything else? Otherwise, I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Do I hear a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
loudest
Motion
vote.
carried.